Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 5 of my Diablo style RPG tutorial series. This again is a Patreon supported tutorial series, so if you like to donate as well or become my patron or whatever, feel free to do so. Go to PayPal or even Patreon and support me if you like to, and if you of course like this series. What we're gonna do in this part is we start to create a class for our character, or even if we're gonna have later on several different characters like a female and male character, for example, which is or has been the choice now from the Patreon who is supporting this tutorial series. We're gonna be able to set this one to whatever our needs are. We're gonna create a public field for this one, so we can fill in some player behavior, what the player has to do or will do when, or how it has to act, how many skill points it's going to have, and so on and so forth, and maybe later on, of course, a list of what skills the player already have learned. So yeah, let's get into it. I will create this maybe later on in another folder. I'm not sure about how I want to sort this one out, but I go to scripts for now, and I just create a C# script and just call this one maybe base class. You can call this whatever you please and like. I'm gonna explain what we're gonna do and while we're gonna do so. What we are actually creating in here. So again, what we're gonna do is we create just a class which is holding all the different information about the player, but not directly. So we're gonna fill in the data from loading later on directly inside the player when we are instantiating this one. So we want to make sure that we are able to save this base class later on, maybe in the player preps, or serialize it. Actually, I believe we're gonna go in and serialize that whole class. So we need to take care of some stuff at first. I'm gonna zoom in a bit so you can see stuff better. So the first one is in that angled or square brackets, we're gonna type in system.serializable. We want to make sure that this custom class we're gonna create is later on serializable, and we are able to fill in data directly inside the inspector. And we get rid of the mono behavior, since we don't need mono behavior in this case. It's just an empty class, and we're gonna fill in data we need, or actually what the patron needs for the moment. Later on you can of course go in and pass in everything you need on your own. Again, to keep stuff organized, we're gonna fill in the data and use some headers. So those headers will actually show us the correct information about whatever the class is, and so on and so forth. So, but at first, before we're gonna do this, I want to implement an enum. Public enum, and I call this one maybe my class. No, my gender, or actually genders. So we want to have a difference between a male and female character. Well, that's about what the patron wants. So we have a male gender, comma, and we have a female. You can type this one fully bold or fully uppercase. You can type this fully lowercase. It's up to you how you want this. An enum is nothing else than a list of integers, and this are named like those whatever we're gonna call them. We could even add more genders if we have some, and they will be seen later on as a drop-down list. But not just that, we can actually implement now enough enums, or a lot of enums, like maybe for weapon types or weapon classes or whatever we like, and we compare those stuff later on with whatever is needed actually. Even so, we currently don't have any currently I haven't planned anything what is about female and male, but I believe what we can do is we can say if a specific item type is usable only by male or female characters. So this is what is all this stuff about. So only female characters can wear a skirt, for example, but a male just can use trousers, or I don't know, a specific type of boots, and so on and so forth. So this is what we're gonna need or what we're gonna use in this case. So make sure that you don't have any header above the enum, otherwise you will get later on an error message that the header is not able to do something above an enum declaration. So make sure that you have the enums at first before you go forward. So we also will have stats. So I'm gonna create a header in here for an open close parentheses and some quotes inside and say stats. So this type of characters will have four or five, I believe that were 5 different stats we want to look at. So those stats are going to be, let's see, I have a document open now from the guy who was sending me that. Let's see where the stats are. Since we're using those later on in public, or actually in one public field, we don't need to set up getters and setters, even if we could, but for now we just keep it as it is. And if we don't like this later on, we can always go in and change stuff here and there and set up the getters and setters directly in the base class. But again, we're gonna use a public field where we are implementing or reading the data directly from a save file when we're starting the game, for example, and even more. So we want to have a strength as our first stat. The second one, those are all integers, is of type endurance. Endurance. I hope I have no typos in here. If so, make sure I believe there need to be an A. Make sure you tell me that I have any typos or something if you find them. The next one is another integer of type agility, and I believe we're gonna have 2 more. Yeah, we need to. So for the mage guys, for example, we're gonna add some wisdom. And of course we need some intellect or intelligence. So public int intelligence. So this is just intelligence. These are just fields we're gonna fill in later on. Okay, so we have our stats done. We have decided, or we can later on decide if they are male or female. Actually we don't need any specific class, but what we may need is some stat points. So I add another header in here, open close parentheses, inside quotes, and we're gonna do everything about skills maybe in here. So the patron likes to have 5 stat ability points by level up and skill ability points by 15 when we're leveling up. So we need to start with some skill set actually, or a skill amount for those particular points. So we have later on as well access to them. So I call this maybe it's of type int, of course, as well. So these are stat points with a big P maybe. And public int skill points. You can also name it skill ability points, it doesn't really matter. So we have everything about the skills. Later on we might add another, I'm gonna just comment this one out, maybe a list of current skills. So when we are learning later on a skill, we can actually paste or pass them into a list of whatever we have learned inside that, and then we can serialize the whole class, or actually the whole part, while we are passing over the data later on here back and forth. Again, we might go in later on and increase or actually create getters and setters for this one to make stuff easier. We're gonna see when we are at this particular point. So we create another header in the top in here, and I want to name this one just gender. And what I want to do is I want to have access to the genders. So I need to create a new public variable of type genders, like we created the enum in here, and we just call this one gender. So we're gonna see the gender ability or the gender drop down, which is reading the data from the enum genders, and we can see this one only when one or actually both of those are public, otherwise we are not able to see them. Okay, let's save the base class for now, and yeah, let's create another script for our character actually. So this basically is a character script we can use for any new character we're gonna create. Since we later on go and inherit base class, or well, actually we don't inherit it, but what we do is, again, we create a public field of it. So I call this script player behavior. You can again name it whatever you want. So the player behavior will hold all the data about the player itself. So when we're gonna again later on instantiate that player, it will be basically just empty and then or has some base informations, and we can read the data and pass them over. So what I do is I click on my player character in here and pass over the player behavior script directly on it. So also later on we would have the possibility to go and use the move to click or click to move script directly on it, because we just need to get the component directly inside the player when we need access to it. We can actually do that at start, so we only need this to do this once. We don't need to find anything and so on and so forth. So we have the player behavior in here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to open this player behavior script in MonoDevelop right now, and I want to add, or actually, want to make sure that I have access to the base class. So what we could do is we could inherit base class, but the problem is we need to have mono behavior as well. Otherwise, we are not able to see it directly inside the inspector. So what we do is we create a new public field of type base class. We just created this class, and we just name it whatever we like to. Maybe hero, infos, whatever. So when we are saving this one right now, we're gonna have in just a moment, once the compiler is done, we should have a heroes info or hero infos tab in here. When we're pressing on this little arrow in here, you can see we have gender, we have stats, and we have skills. The problem is the header is not working as I want it to be. I believe everything is that blacked out, or actually is, since this is new, I believe those values are still bold. So when we would create a prefab out of it, I'm not sure if we have created one already. Player, no, we don't, I believe. So what we could do at this particular point is we create a new folder in here, maybe. Inside the assets folder, create new folder. We're gonna rearrange stuff later on, maybe. So of type prefabs, or actually with the name prefabs. And what I want to do is I want to drag in the player directly inside the prefabs folder. What now happens is, as you can see, the bold text is actually going away, and we see the headers completely correctly, and same directly in the player of this part in here. So what we now can do is we can change this gender to male female, like a drop down as I said before, and we can enter any stats, skills, and of course we can add more. So what we also want to do is, after we maybe know or before we know what this is about, we might want to add another header in here, and maybe I'm gonna give this some basic infos. So those infos are maybe a name, if you have one or need one. So we're gonna add this one of type string, and we can say equals no, not equals, my name with a big N maybe. And maybe we also want some more like HP and MP and so on and so forth. So what we could do is already add some variables like an integer for health. We could also use current health and maximum health, which would easing up stuff later on. But I believe we don't. Well, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we're gonna do that. So we're gonna have a current health, public int maximum health, and that should be it for now. If we later on use Mana, you're gonna do the same as well. We can copy and paste this one, and instead of current health, you might want to go in and use current mana, and the same for the maximum mana. So we have all the stats already. We have at the moment, or maybe need later on. So we're gonna wait until the compiler is completely correctly done with all of that. Again, when we are changing anything inside, something will become bold in here, so we need to apply the changes to the prefab, and the bold text is going to go away. So now we have the possibility to enter a name, say how many the current health is. Well, this is later on actually automatically calculated when we take damage. The maximum health, of course, is the maximum health we currently have when we have a specific level. And speaking of level, this is another one you might want to have as well, maybe in between the name and the current health. So we're gonna have public string current level. And of course we have an EXP system later on, or level system. So we, no, this is not of type string, this is of course of type integer. So, and another integer of current XP for experience, or EXP, call it whatever you like. And please, let's see if everything is cool about that. If the infos tab is too much not organized for you, you can also split it up by use some more headers, of course. So we could split my name, the current level and the current XP, and we're gonna say here maybe everything about health and mana. Don't forget to save, and we should have this one split it up as well, so we have every info about the player later on when the compiler is done. As you can see, health and mana, everything about that. Every info like the name, the current level, the current EXP, then the gender we want to check maybe or use later on for different items, then the stats we are after, strength, endurance, and so on and so forth, and later on of course skills and skill points. And of course at the very end, if we are going to use that one later on, and we will, I believe, we're gonna need a list of current skills we already have learned, for example, like whatever, fire, sword, thingy. Then we can use maybe a list of integers or a list of skills, depending how we wanna go over and set this up later on. Okay, I will go and check the time. It's about 20 minutes, so we have a bit more time, so we can implement a level up system already. So let's create the level up system. A level up system is basically nothing else than a mathematical calculation of different points in the game and EXP. And we're gonna calculate the differences between between all the levels. If you can see right now is I just have a little calculation table in here, what we're gonna use and actually create. At first, per level, I want to have an exponential curve to add more and more EXP needed totally to become to that level. So, for example, if level 1 needs 20 EXP, we want to make sure that at level 10 we have 2k. There's a little calculation in between we're gonna go through. But at the same time, I want to have a linear function or a linear curve where the EXP difference is going to go over per level. That means if, for example, we want to calculate the level automatically depending on whatever the EXP we currently have. For example, if we have currently 50 EXP, when the base EXP is 20, we would have a level of 1.58. That means we would round this one down to an integer, we would still be level 1. Once we're gonna hit level 2, or actually the 80 EXP, we would automatically have a calculated level of 2, and so on and so forth. The only downside is we're gonna start at level 0, because everything under 20 points, which is the total or the base EXP we're gonna use, you can see there's a 0 in front. So we need to trick the player later on to see the correct data. In this case, we want to make sure that we start at level 1 and not at level 0, what this calculation currently is about. So we need to take care of this one later on as well. Okay, so again, we want to create an exponential increasing increasement in the total EXP we're gonna need per level, and a linear function or linear upgoing XP difference per level. And that's what we're gonna create right now. So we're gonna create a new, gonna zoom in, make this one small. We're gonna create a new system. I will create this one directly in the systems folder, and it's of course a C# script once again, and we call this one level up system. So this system will automatically later on calculate in whatever I just showed you. In that way, what is the current level we are at? What is the base EXP we're gonna use in this calculation? And of course, will show us how all of that stuff is going to be set it up. Okay, speaking of this, let's start. At first, we want to have some public variables, so we have later on access to them. Sometime, or maybe later on, we want to protect them, so they are not, or the player or whoever is trying to cheat maybe is not able to manipulate that data, except he has, well, yeah, Unity and the access to it. So what we can do at first, we create some public fields in here, so we can see if the complete system is working as we want to. So what we have is a public int of our current level. So we want to see if our current level is calculated correctly depending on the base EXP we're gonna start with. So the base XP. So what we can do is actually we can set the base XP already to 20. If we want to have later on a higher amount in the beginning and the exponential curve should be increased depending on that, maybe you're gonna start or want to have a base XP of 100, you are able to do so. So this is not a fixed number, but on this particular number, the complete level system is running. So what we also want to have maybe a public int of the current EXP we're gonna have. So we start usually with 0. Maybe we can later on to manipulate the level better. We can start with the current XP at 20, so we would have automatically level 1. But again, we would need to trick the player and show him what the current or the correct stuff is about, or the correct amount of EXP is. Okay, so what we also want to have is an integer of XP for the next level. Then we want to have another one, a public int of the XP difference to the next level. We're gonna do all the calculation in just a moment. I just want to make sure that we have everything we need. So this is basically, well, one more. This is going to be the total XP difference to the next level. So we're gonna again difference. We're gonna calculate those in just a moment. So we don't need update since we only call our function when we need to, and I just leave start in here so we can actually invoke some information, or actually invoke a specific specific functions and repeat them to manipulate or show how the system is going to work. So we want to have a add XP function in here. We actually could also or can go and make this one public static later on, but at first let's just do it. It's of type void, since we don't return anything, and we want to open close the curly braces for the moment. We add stuff in a moment there as well. Also, we want to have another, well, this does not need to be public, it's just of type void, and we want to calculate our level and XP, of course. So I just call this one a calculate level. You can name this calculate EXP and level, it doesn't matter. What we take as an argument is an integer amount, so we implement an amount to that function, and after we implement this, we're gonna calculate the level new. And we can do the same with the XP in here. So we can call calculate level, open close parentheses, and inside we're gonna type in maybe 5. That means every time this function is called, it will call this function and will add 5 EXP. Later on, if we call add EXP, we're gonna implement another int amount maybe in here, so we can pass over the correct amount to the calculated level depending on whatever the monster has as EXP amount. Okay, so let's calculate everything. At first, we want to make sure that our current EXP is going to be incremented by the amount which is coming in. Pretty cool and yeah, easy to understand. So every time 5 is coming in, current EXP is going to be added by 5. So when it starts at 0, we're gonna add 5. Every time add EXP is going to be called, will be added at 5. Now we want to have a temporary calculated level. So I call this one temp current or car level. It's going to be equal to, and now we're gonna need to calculate the difference, or actually the current level. That means usually we would take the current EXP and divide it by the base EXP. The problem is this would not bring us back our this would not give us the exponential curve. So what I want to do is I want to get the square root out of this one. I'm gonna explain in a moment how this is actually going to be calculated. So what we want to do is we're gonna say mathf.square root, which is this one, and we want to take the square root out of the XP, the current XP divided by the base XP. For example, the current EXP is maybe 80 and the base EXP is 20, and 80 divided by 20 is going to be 4, and the square root of 4 should be 2. That means we're gonna be able to calculate, okay, the current EXP divided by that and the square root of that would return number 2. So it would automatically calculate we are in number 2 or in level 2. So what you can see is when the total EXP or the current EXP is 80 and we divide that by the base EXP of 20, we should be able to calculate this one in 2. And that's the same what this calculate stuff is in here, or actually, yeah, calculating if we have 80 current EXP, our calculated level is 2. But since we need to round this one, we need to make sure that we typecast this one as an integer. So we don't get a float back, but an integer which is rounded to the next full number. No matter if it's 0.8, it will be automatically 0 anyways. I can show you this one. For example, we have 19, or maybe at this particular case, maybe 79. The level would still be 1 because we haven't hit it the 80 in this particular case. Also, you can see the same formula is what I used in here. So I take the base or the current EXP, divide that by the base EXP, and take the square root out of it. The only thing I didn't use the rounding inside an integer or a full number in this case. Okay, hope you got and understand this. So what we now want to do is we want to check if the current level is actually the same as the temporary current level we just created or calculated. So if current level is not equal the temp current level, then we want to make sure that the current level, of course, is the temporary current level. So we set current level to be equal to the temp current level. Okay. So now we have calculated the level, and usually when we're gonna calculate the level depending on however or how big the current EXP is, we could already check this one. So at start, this is just for testing. We later on delete that function. We call invoke repeating. This is a test function I'm gonna use in here. So every time at a specific time, I can repeat something, repeat a specific function, which is going to be add exp after a given amount of time. So in quotes, I say add exp, so I make sure everything is written correctly as this function is called. If you're unsure, just copy and paste this one directly in the quotes, comma 1f, comma 1f, close the brackets and close the line with a semicolon. Don't forget to save, and when we are returning back to Unity, I'm gonna show you what's happening. At first we go to our game controller. I'm gonna use this for the moment to make the level up system running and actually see if this is running and working for us at the moment. It's not completed, but you can see some stuff in here. Also, base XP is going to be calculated, and the other ones will be calculated later on. When I press play now, I should get an invoke after every 1 second by 5. So the current EXP is going to be increased. You can see this in here, by 5 every second. Also, what you have seen, the current level started at 0. That's what I was talking about earlier. And of course, we implement the XP, and when the 80, for example, was hit, the level was increased by 2. So we can check this one always with our table in here. So level 3 would need an amount of 180 in total EXP, or a total earned EXP. So we can actually wait until we hit this one just to see that the current level in here is going to be added to be 3 when we are hitting 180 EXP and not earlier. There you go, 180 has been hit and the current level is number 3. Okay, but actually we don't have, or we need a bit more. Because later on we want to make sure that the player is able to see the difference, maybe with an EXP bar and so on and so forth. So what we need to do is we need to calculate the EXP for the next level, the difference to the next level, and of course the total EXP difference, what we just created in here. And to calculate those, it's pretty simple as well. Basically the same mathematic information we already have created or already know. So the EXP for the next level is the difference between the current EXP, it's the base EXP of 20 in this case, times whatever the current level is plus 1, and times again the current level plus 1. So the XP for the next level is going to be the base XP times, open close parentheses, inside we're gonna say current level. So if it's 1, we're gonna have to add 1 more, so it's level 2, because we want to know what level 2 in this case needs, not level 1, times again current level plus 1. Basically what we calculate in here is everything what we do already in here, but vice versa. So instead of taking the square root, we're gonna add those together. So that's why we're gonna take the square root out of the current XP divided by the base XP. It's nothing else than just that, just reversed. Okay, so now we know the EXP for the next level, which will be automatically calculated depending on what our current level is, plus 1 times the current level again plus 1, and all of that times the base EXP. If it is 20 and we are currently at level 0 or maybe 1, it's going to be 4 times 4, 2 by 2, and 2 by 2 is 4, and 4 by 4 by the base XP, which is 20. The next level would be, in this case level 2, would need an XP amount of 80, and that's what we're gonna do in here in this line. And you can calculate this for every level if you like to, which I basically did in that little stuff in here as well. So that's a calculation we're gonna use to have an exponential curve increasement by the current level. So the next one is we want to have the XP difference to the next level. This is going to be a runtime calculated one. So we're gonna take the one we just created, the EXP for the next level, minus the current EXP we already have. So we know the rest to the next level. So if you want to show the player the difference to the next level in runtime, maybe, okay, you need 5 more points, then you can use this particular variable for this one. And we of course want to see the total EXP difference and this one is going to be again the EXP for the next level minus, and we're gonna do the same calculation as we already created in the EXP for the next level, but not the increased amount by 1, but the current one. So that means minus the base EXP times the current EXP, the current level of course, times the current level once again. So it's the current one and not the one to the next one. And yeah, that's the total EXP difference between the first and the last one. Why do we need that? We need that to calculate maybe later on a fill amount of a particular health bar or any bar or whatever to fill in a number between 0 and 1. So this is always a fixed number between the current or for the current needed EXP difference. So and we can calculate a fill amount to that. I'm gonna create a new public variable on here so we can see this one as well. Fill amount for a health bar. This needs to be of type float, otherwise it's not working because it's a number between 0 and 1. And if we later on, no matter which possibility we're gonna use, if we are using local scale later on, we're gonna use this. If we are not using local scale, but maybe fill amount from images, for example, then we can actually use this as well. So because the numbers will always be between 0 and 1. Same for local scale. 1 is always 100%, 0 is 0% of course, and everything in between, maybe 10 is 0.1, or actually 10%. So what we're gonna do is we say fill amount is going to be equal to the total EXP difference, the EXP difference to the next level divided by the total EXP difference. Okay, so we're gonna type in EXP to next level, EXP difference to next level divided by the total EXP difference. But the problem is those two values are integers. This one is a float. So we need to typecast those two numbers into floats as well. Otherwise the calculation would be wrong. Also the downside is this is a negative or actually a wrong, wrongly created number. I'm gonna show you this one in just a second. So we're gonna wait until the compiler is done. So let's assume the fill amount is going to fill a bit. 100 means, or actually 1 means 100%. And what you can see is this fill amount starts at 0.75. That means 3/4 already from the health bar is filled. When we're gonna wait another second as well, it's going to be 0.5. That means the health amount or the fill amount would be getting decreased instead of increased. So what we need to do is we need to turn around the fill amount, and we're gonna create another variable for this one to hold this information. So I call this one public. It's of type float as well, and we're gonna need or name this one reversed fill amount. So we're gonna just reverse the fill amount so we have a steady upcoming fill amount, and the reverse fill amount is nothing else than 1 minus the fill amount we're gonna have. So 1 minus the fill amount is going to be always the reversed fill amount, because 1 is a maximum number. Of course we're gonna need this one in here, an equal sign, and we set this one to that. Okay, and what we also want to do is when the player is actually leveling up, we want to make sure that that we add some stat points. We could already call our player and set this stat points depending on whatever the player is or the player stats are. But for now, let's just keep it inside in here, and I call this one stat points. It's of type int, and also we're gonna create a skill points one. Int skill points. We're gonna send this data later on directly to the player, but for now we want to make sure that we are able to calculate this. So stat points is going to be equal to 5 times the current level. So 5 times current level is the amount we want to have as stat points. And the same for the skill points. We want to make sure that this is 15 times the current level as well. So this is what the Patreon is after. He wants to know, or actually he wants to make sure that the player is getting 5 points per level and 15 points or 5 stat points per level and 15 skill points per level as well. So let's test everything out. So we can see that the reverse fill amount is going to work well vice versa. So instead of 0.75 it would be 0.25 at the very first step. Gonna pause once it is. As you can see, the reverse fill amount is now 0.25 because 5 minus the fill amount of 0.75 is going to be 0.25, and it will increase instead of decrease. As you can see, now the fill amount is 0.25, but the reversed, well, yeah, is reversed. And it's working pretty cool. The next one is, once we are leveling up in just a second as well, you can see we're gonna get automatically stat points by 5 and skill points by 15. Also, all the other differences are calculated as well. So the total EXP difference to the next level is actually 60. But the EXP to next level is going to be automatically recreated or recalculated every time we're going to add EXP to it. So it's going to be decreasing, so you can see or show the player what's about. And the EXP for the next level is, of course, the complete or total amount of EXP as well at this particular case. So level 1 plus level 2 is going to be the 80 skill or the 80 EXP amount in here. So we're gonna have all the calculations now in one little script, which is actually doing all the mathematical informations for us. So to see or check or to show you, there are also other possibilities to, depending on how many base EXP we're gonna set in. I'm gonna enter 100 for the moment. So what you can see is we're gonna start again at level 0 until we hit 100 points. Everything else is going to be calculated depending on that. Now we need to wait 20 seconds until we're gonna have enough EXP to go to level 1, and everything else will be calculated as well. And the XP for next level in the next line actually, or in the next level, would be 400 in this case. As you can see, now we need 400 EXP in total to go to level 2. And I can also show you this one once again in here. When I change the total EXP at this particular point to 100, the level 2 would need, give it a second, would need 400, as you can see right here. And also everything else will be incremented. So this 10k of points is the same as the amount of all the EXP differences in between those. So we can always go and calculate this one as well. Gonna take a sum and sum all the EXP differences together, and when I hit enter, you should see that this is, well, calculated wrong. However, this is the same amount. Okay, anyways. Oh yeah, because this number in here needs to be 100. That's why. I believe because this is an automatic or not automatically incremented, because this sum is not available. But now when I hit enter, there should be a 10k. As you can see now, this is a 10k, which is actually the total EXP amount we're gonna need for level 10. Okay, so this is the differences. Every time or every level needs 200 more EXP, but still is the amount is exponentially growing up, while we are incrementing the difference by 200 at every time, actually, from 100 to 300 to 500, 700, and so on and so forth. Again, you can take any time, or you can create your own calculation inside of that. You can also go in and take the total amount of maybe, I don't know, 500 at the very beginning, or you just make it as simple as possible to maybe start slow, and later on through the exponential curve as well, you will get any other high amount at this particular point. Okay, that's everything I wanted to cover in this, well, rather long tutorial. But I hope you enjoyed and learned something. Again, you have now a fully functional level up system, and of course we created our class or some particular base class for our for our character, we can pass data inside later on and react to it. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.